Hey y'all, 5 things I looked for when choosing my delivery doctors and midwives. I'm Dr. Fatu Forna. I am an OBGYN who works to keep pregnant women safe here in the US and around the world. So, I've had 4 babies and, I've been blessed to have very good experiences. But there were specific things I looked for in my doctors and in my midwives. And I'm going to share my experience with you because I hope that helps you as you're making this really important decision about who's going to take care of you when you're pregnant. I'm going to share some of the things and some of the general qualities that I looked for, and hopefully that can help you. All right. Number 1, trust. It was very important for me that I found a doctor that I could trust with, someone who could collaborate, could work together as patient and doctor to provide the kind of care I needed. I wanted someone who listened to me. Very important that you have a doctor that listens to you. Someone who saw me, not only listened to me, but saw me as a person, a human being, as a sister, a mother, a friend, an aunt, someone who was going to be patient with me, someone who was going to look out for me, who was not going to let me die during pregnancy, because, this is what I do. So I know the risks. But I also wanted someone who was authoritative. As an OBGYN myself, I feel like I know a few things. So I really needed someone who let me know that I'm the doc, I'm in charge, you're the patient. Yes, we're going to collaborate, but there are things that you need to do to be safe. So I needed someone stern, someone who was going to make sure that I did the right thing. So trust was very important. The second thing I looked for was a good person. Really important that your doctor is just a good person, or your midwife. I wanted someone who was nice, someone who had really good character, someone who was ethical. We can assume that everyone has these things. I can say that most doctors go into medicine because medicine is a calling. So really, most doctors are good and they have your best interests at heart. But like everything else, there are bad apples in every profession. So you've got to make sure that you look out for a good person, someone who comes recommended. Number 3, I looked for someone who provided evidence-based care. Medicine is changing and there are things we learn every day. And I needed to make sure that the person that was caring for me knew about those changes and, wasn't just doing stuff because they always did it. They were, keeping up and providing that kind of evidence-based care. When I looked for that type of doctor, I also didn't just look at the doctor, I looked at the group, because you might have a really good doctor, but if they're in a bad or group with doctors that are not so good, and when you go into labor, it depends on whoever's on call is going to be there for you. So I made sure I chose someone who was in a group, that I kind of trusted the other doctors to also provide evidence-based care. I also wanted to make sure that not only the doctor, but the hospital, which hospital do they deliver at? Do they have a good reputation? Does that hospital have good outcomes? So that was very important to me. And Black women, it's important that you travel for care. You travel to find a good doctor. You travel to a good hospital. Because if you live in an area that doesn't necessarily have a good hospital, you just don't want to go to the hospital that's close to your home. You need to find, get your references. And then number 4, try to look at doctor versus midwife. I actually had both. 2 of my babies were delivered by doctors, OBGYNs, 2 were delivered by midwives, and I'll talk in depth about some of those deliveries. I had the doc-only practices, but I also had practices that were doctors and midwives working together collaboratively. So very important for me when I was looking for midwives. I wanted to make sure that they were in a collaborative group. I wanted to make sure that the doctor was in the hospital. Even though the midwife was caring for me, that a doctor was in the hospital 24/7. Because if I were to need an emergency C-section, if there was, I was bleeding, there was a complication, that's where the doctors, the OBGYNs kind of step in. So I wanted to make sure that that was important. And then number 5, get a lot of questions about this race. Race is very important in your care, especially for Black women. There have been studies that show that when you have concordant care with a doctor or midwife or healthcare worker of the same race, you have better outcomes. Now, that said, because of that, I try to find Black doctors if possible. But, number 1, that's not always possible. Number 2, it's not always about race. I want to make sure, I think what's more important than race sometimes is that you find a really good doctor, a really good person. So I'll talk about my care. I had, 2 of the doctors and midwives that delivered me were Black. 2 of the doctors and midwives that delivered me were white. And I had really great care from all of them. So there's a lot of talk going around where Black women feel that, they hear about the racism, they hear about the biases, and they're so scared, to even go to the hospital, to the point where people are having babies at home. I don't want that to push you away, because they're really good doctors of all races and really good midwives of all races. You just have to know how to find the right person and recognize the right person. And then, very importantly for Black people, not all kinfolk, not all skin folk are kinfolk. You might, we have some Black doctors that do not provide great care. Black doctors that actually provide pretty crappy care to Black patients and to other patients. And I've seen it happen, so you can't just assume, I'm going to find a Black doctor and things are going to be great. No, you need to find a great doctor or midwife first. So I want to shout out some of my really awesome doctors and midwives who've cared for me. I'll call their first names. They might not want to be identified, but I want to say thank you. So for my 4 deliveries, my first delivery, Kila and Aisha, you guys took wonderful care of me. There were 2 Black female OBGYNs in a group together. I had a wonderful experience. In fact, to this day, Aisha is my doctor, and she's one of the best OBGYNs ever. So thank you for that. For my second delivery, I was delivered by a white female. Jill, you're awesome. We trained together. You're just a wonderful OBGYN, provided me with wonderful care, listened, very supportive, and I had just a wonderful experience. I couldn't have asked for better. And then my third delivery, Lynette, the best midwife to ever do it. She's a Black female midwife. Her hands are just blessed. She's just wonderful. So Lynette was my midwife, backed up by Al, who was a Black male OBGYN. He was the doctor who was covering. He was in the hospital 24/7. He actually was the doctor who was available for the last 2 of my deliveries. Wonderful doc. One of my favorite OBGYNs. In fact, he ended up doing surgery on me after that. So love that. And then my 4th delivery was by Janet. Janet was a white midwife. We had great times together. I worked with Janet. She's wonderful, great care. So I was really, really blessed to have really good doctors, really good midwives. And I think by my experience, some were Black, some were white, some were doctors, some were midwives. But they were part of great teams. They provided evidence-based care. They listened to me. They loved on me. They provided that support that I needed. So Black women, this is one of my longer talks, because this is so important that you choose the right care team, that you choose them well, because that makes or breaks your experience. Get personal references from your friends, from other doctors, from labor and delivery nurses. They know the good and the bad ones and the shady ones. Yes, it's great. It's important to get a Black OB or midwife if possible, but get a good doctor first. And not everyone is racist, and not everyone is out to get you. We all have implicit biases, but it's what we do to overcome them. So don't let social media have you running to deliver at home or find care elsewhere and overlooking really, really good doctors, because, good doctors and midwives are out there. So find that doctor or midwife that you connect with, that listens to you, that you can trust, and entrust them with your care. Spend time finding the right care team, because a good team is really critical and necessary to survive and thrive during pregnancy.